All right, welcome to your left-handed bandit mobile paint party experience. Today's theme is going to be a family of elephants. So we have our pre-plotted canvas all set and ready for us. We have a small paintbrush that we're going to be using throughout this painting. We're also going to be utilizing a larger brush or a sponge brush, a foam sponge brush, as well as several different colors. We have the colors blue, and a little bit further back so you can see better. We have blue, we have purple, black, white, red, and we have yellow. Now, you may not use all of these colors, but we have all of these on hand for us to utilize in case we want to add any special flair to our paintings to make them a little bit more unique and a little bit more in line with each of our own personalities. So this is a fairly simple painting. You're going to need some water as well for this painting too, and a paper towel as well. I forgot to mention that. So water, paper towel, 2 paint brushes, pre-plotted canvas, and paint, and of course a palette, something to mix your paint on. So as I was starting to say, this is a fairly simple painting for the most part. It's just like the little details that we add at the end can make it seem a little bit more complex, but it's really not that hard, I promise you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our colors and we're going to get them to the point where we can start mixing them up. So whether you've kept your paint in your cups or if you've taken it out of the cups, then we're going to go ahead and focus on that red paint and that yellow paint. We're going to take a nice heaping amount of our yellow, and we are going to mix together the color orange. So we're not going to mix orange with all of our yellow, but the majority of our yellow paint. We're going to need a good amount of orange paint. So I'm mixing a great amount of yellow paint with a heaping amount of red paint. So I'm mixing up orange paint, and this orange paint is going to be used on the majority of our canvas. So we're going to utilize a nice clean paintbrush by taking our brush, dipping it in water after we've created our orange color. Tap it on the side of your cup to get the excess water out. Dab both sides off on your paper towel. And once we've gotten that excess water out of our bristles, we can go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the background behind the elephants. And we're going to define our sun. We're going to have a nice sunset behind the elephants. So using this orange paint that we recently just mixed up, I'm going to take that paint with that paintbrush and draw in an arc or a big old sad face or a frown. So we're painting in a big frown, big sad face, semicircle, however you want to refer to it as, behind the elephants. Now, if you go inside of the elephants, it's no big deal. We can always paint over that later. But for now, try your best not to go inside the elephants and work outside of the shapes. So now that we have our sun defined, we're going to go ahead and start adding some color. Using that same paintbrush, I'm going to add streaks of paint going across the canvas in the background. Now, as we paint, we're going to try our best to avoid the elephants and avoid this tree here in the back. However, again, if you get paint inside the tree or the elephants, it's no big deal. You also have a foam brush that you can utilize for this step as well. I'm going to start with my smaller paintbrush, and I'm going to end with my foam brush. The awesome part about this digital tutorial is that you can pause this video, rewind this video, or even fast forward this video if you feel the need to do so. So, if you need to watch this part and rewind, feel free to do so, or even watch this part and pause it. I'm going to use a small brush and work in between the very small parts of the bottoms of my elephants. The reason I'm starting there is just because when we get to this open space, we want to be able to be nice and free and fluent. So down here, we will fill in the area with brush strokes going across. And you can watch me first. I'm going to start right over here and add a little wisp of orange paint. Side to side, I'm avoiding my elephant the best I can. I'm going to come right here and do the same thing. I'm going to come over here because this sun will not be orange. It's going to be a different color. So I'm going to avoid the sun, avoid the elephants, and work behind the elephants, adding swipes of paint side to side as I work my way up from the elephants to the open sky. So I'm adding more paint here. And I'm leaving little small open areas because I'm going to add in some more paint there in just a second. So now I have my orange paint. So you can either rinse your brush off or wipe it off in water or on your paper towel. And from here, we're going to dab our paintbrush on our paper towel and switch to the color red. So with our paintbrush, we're going to grab some red paint and we're going to add some red paint to those same areas that we added the orange to. And we're going to mix these colors together. So I have my red in and I have my orange in. I'm filling them in side to side. I'm avoiding my elephants. I'm avoiding the sun for now. And these colors are going to start wisping and blending together. Now, in order for these to fully blend together, they have to be wet still. This is acrylic paint, and acrylic paint dries very, very fast. So, to make sure that we can bond and blend these paints before they dry, we have to mix them while they're still wet. So what we'll do is, we'll wipe the excess paint off on our paper towel, getting the excess paint out of the bristles. We'll grab some white paint, just a touch, and then we'll dab on just a little bit into that pile. So we're adding just a little bit of white paint to that background so that it blends in with our orange and our yellows and our reds. So over here in this corner that I'm painting, you'll notice that those colors are finally starting to blend together over here. So we want the same effect happening throughout the entire sky. So I'm going to continue to blend in these colors as best I can. If I go inside my tree or my elephants, it's not the end of the world. We can always fix those later. So when I'm focusing on these smaller areas, I use my regular paintbrush because it's a bit more versatile than the foam brush. But again, when I get to the open area at the top, I will switch over from my paintbrush to my foam brush. As I'm painting, I'm holding the paintbrush right in the middle and I'm painting side to side. So I'm going to continue filling and blending these colors, trying my best to make sure I cover up the background. I'm going to go to this side and work between these elephants. I'm getting a little bit of paint inside them, but it's okay. I'm making sure all these colors are nice and blended. If you need to go back into your orange paint, feel free to do so. You can jump back into any color you like if you feel you need more of that color. Sometimes when we're painting, we easily lose track of different colors. So if we need to go back into other colors, that's okay as well. So I'm getting this part of my background over here nice and blended. And as I'm starting to reach this area, I'm getting ready to switch to my sponge brush. But before I do that, I just want to add in just a little more red to this background. If you like the way your background is looking, then that's what you can stick with. However, I want just a little bit more red to my background, so I'm going to add more red. And by the way, if you feel courageous and want to add in some other colors, then I encourage you to do so. At the end of the video, I will try my best to add some more styles and options and colors and ideas so you can have some ideas of what you can do with your painting. So this is looking like enough red to be added for now. I'm going to take my smaller paintbrush and I'm going to just drop my smaller paintbrush into my water cup. And I'm going to switch to my foam brush. And with this foam brush, I'm going to finish off my sky. As I paint, I'm not going to focus on this bottom area anymore until later. If I need to make adjustments, I'm only going to focus on this top section. I'm going to work through this tree. And what I mean by working through the tree is by simply painting over it, and I'll show you exactly what I'll do with that. For this next part, we're going to need some orange, some yellow, and some red still. We're going to bounce back and forth between those different colors. So first, I'll start with a good amount of orange paint, and I'm going to very randomly add streaks of orange throughout my canvas. You don't want to cover the entire canvas with orange. You just want to leave some open areas of orange so that we can, just like we did the bottom of this canvas, add in some different colors. So I have lots of orange on this canvas now. So I'm going to wipe the excess orange paint off of my paintbrush and onto my paper towel. And from here, I'm going to grab some red paint. Now I'm not going to put as much red paint on as I did for the orange, because red's a bit stronger than orange, and orange is also a product of red. So we don't need too much of this red to blend this the way we want to blend this. So maybe just a few areas, and that should be just fine right there. If you go into your sun a little bit, it's okay. We can always make adjustments later. So now I have my orange, I have my red, and I'm going to wipe off the excess paint onto my paper towel. And now I'm going to grab some more yellow. And the same way I blended in that white, I'm going to use this yellow and blend this in to my background, working through my tree and covering the entire background with these colors. Again, try your best to avoid the elephants, but if you go inside the elephant outlines, it's no big deal. Make sure you get all that white in the background. You can get this all by making sure you're wisping side to side and covering all of the background color. Again, I went inside my sun just a little bit, but it's not a big deal. When that paint dries, I can always cover it again. I'm going to take just a little bit more paint, and I'm going to get this corner over here. So now I have a nice blended sky, but I want to add just a little bit more color to that. So I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my paintbrush and onto my paper towel. And from here, I still have a dirty paintbrush. However, I can still use more colors to blend into the sky. The only color that we have missing now is white. So with this clean-ish paintbrush, I'm going to dab in just a little bit of white, not a lot at all, right around that sun, just a few dabs. And then I can also get maybe 2 or 3 to the rest of the sky. So I got 1, 2, I'm going to make a nice big long one right over here. So now I got a few areas of white in my sky, and I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my paintbrush and onto this paper towel. And I'm going to lightly wisp side to side in long and short brush strokes so that I can blend this white into the sky. As I work my way down to this sunset, I'm going to make sure those streaks of white are nice and blended in, because when we make the sun later, when we finish the sun later, it's going to add to the effect. So we have that nice and blended. I do want more red in there, but I'll wait just a little while for this to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to switch gears and go from the top of my canvas and work on the bottom of my canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a blend of colors at the very bottom underneath this black line. So we're going to need the same exact colors for this. However, we'll switch up the color order. You can either keep your paintbrush as is, or you can rinse it in water. If you want to rinse it in water, just make sure that the excess water is out of the foam brush before you begin painting again. I personally do not rinse my foam brush in water just because I don't want it to retain too much water and run down my canvas. So again, you can rinse your brush, but if you do, make sure that it's nice and dry and drained of all excess water before you begin painting again. I'm going to wipe mine on my paper towel. I'm going to start this time with the color red. I am going to bring a few streaks of red on this right side of the bottom part of my canvas. And what I mean by that is I'm going to start right here at the end and streaks right to here, right about where that sun ends. And then I'm going to do another one underneath that, and then another one underneath that. And on the left side, I'm going to do the exact same thing, almost as if it's symmetrical. So I'm going to add a streak here, and then another streak to bring it all the way to the bottom. So now we have streaks of paint. I'm going to wipe the excess paint out of my sponge brush and onto the paper towel. And from here, I'm going to switch to my yellow. So I'm going to use this yellow to blend together these colors at the bottom. We want to keep a nice difference, and what I mean by that is we want to be able to tell the difference between this orange and yellow and red, especially right in the center. So when able to tell the difference, we need to add some more color. So I'm going to grab just a touch of white next and dab just a little bit of white right to the middle of my canvas. Now, we can add more color details to this part of this painting in a little while. However, for now, we don't want to get too detailed. We can layer up after this area dries. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to grab just a very teeny amount of black paint, very teeny, and add just a little bit of black on the right side. You can even let it stretch out into the middle by turning your brush different directions. So I added some black on the right, and now I'm going to go on the left side and add just a little bit more black. And when I say a little bit, I mean a very teeny amount of black is all you need. It's a very dark color, so it can easily take the other colors and absorb it very easily. So I am stretching this black on this left side into my canvas. And from here, I'm going to add just a little bit more white. And then I'm going to pause on that. And when it's nice and dry, I can add some more detail. So I got a little bit of white mixed in here on the right, and then again on the left. Just a teeny bit is all I need. And after this, we're going to let the water, because that's what this is water. We're going to let the water kind of relax for a bit and let it dry, because we want to be able to add more details to this later. So just maybe add a few more brush strokes to this water, get it to a point where you're liking it, and then we are going to let that water dry for a bit, so that way we can add on top of it. So finally, you can take your sponge brush, drop it in your cup of water, and let that soak for a bit, just so that we can get that excess paint out in case we need that sponge brush again later. So for the next part of this painting, I am going to switch back to my regular size paintbrush. So using a clean paintbrush, which is the same brush we started with. Make sure it's nice and clean. And I'm going to start with the color white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come on the inside of this this sun shape, and I'm going to paint that white with a little bit of yellow detail. I'm going to paint my sun. That's what we're working on next. So we're starting with the color white, and we're going to fill the entire sun in with white paint. And then from there, we can add some other details. So white paint just to retake the shape of the sun. So I'm stretching around. And we want some of that orange and some of that yellow to carry in, because that's going to have a nice effect in the final parts of our painting. So I'm filling in the inside of our sun with white paint. We're allowing some of those other colors to mix in. It's okay. It'll make it look even better. Be careful not to lose the shape of your sun. A nice smile face line to keep there that we created in the beginning. Try to smooth your paint so there's no globs, but if there are a couple of globs here and there, it's okay. I'm working on the rest of the sun, so I'm working within the shape of these elephants and without, and getting the smaller parts filled in with white paint, because it may seem a little silly to paint white paint on top of this white background, but with this acrylic paint, to blend properly, that paint has to be wet. So the best blend is going to be when we add this solid layer of white paint, and then from here wipe the excess paint off of our paintbrush and onto our paper towel, or dip it in water and drain it out, whichever you prefer. And with this white background, we can take just a little bit of yellow paint and add it to a few miscellaneous areas. So that way we can wisp in by lightly holding the paintbrush and wisping your fingers onto that sun shape. So we're just blending it in. We don't want a completely white sun. We don't want a completely yellow sun. But at the same rate, whatever color you want to make your sun is cool with me. If you like it, I love it. I want to make mine a mixture between white, yellow, and I'm going to add just a touch of orange to bring it together after this. So I got my yellow in, I got my white, and now for some orange. This orange should blend me up pretty nicely. Orange here, here. And then I can always go back in with white now and later, just to add more of a bold finish to the painting. So I'll let that dry for a bit, and when it dries up, I'll add some more white to this piece. But for now, that's going to be fine. So we like to multitask when we're doing these different paintings. So as one area dries, we work on another. So we worked on our sky and let that dry while we worked on our water at the bottom. I can tell that my water is still pretty wet, so I don't want to go back to that yet. We have our sun, which is nice and dry, and we have our elephants, which need to be done, as well as our tree. I can tell that this tree is still wet in the background, so we'll let that dry for a bit. Our elephants, however, are ready to be painted. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the color black, just black only, to fill in the silhouettes of these elephants. So using your small size paintbrush, carefully take your time and fill in this family of elephants with black paint. So this may take some time, and that's what we want. We are buying time right now to complete this painting so that those other parts can dry, because when these parts dry, we can add those details and make them look even better and more fun. So now I'm going to fill in the silhouettes of my elephants, which will take me some time and allow me to get these other parts dry. Try your best to keep the shape of these elephants so that we can still tell what they are. So I'm getting my elephant at the very end first, but you can start with any elephant you want. And honestly, you don't even have to make these black if you don't want to. Now, believe it or not, we are way more than halfway done with our painting. It's just these little things that we do from here that are going to make our painting or break it. But we're going to try our best to make the painting the best we absolutely can. And the way we can absolutely make the painting its very best is by taking our time and filling it in so that when we're done with our painting, all that time that we've invested in these elephants, in this painting, will all be worth it. As we all know in life, it is very hard to achieve different things, but if we commit enough time and effort, we can reach a very great result, and that is the result that we're aiming for when we finish this elephant painting off in just a few. So I'm on my second baby elephant, little elephant, however you want to refer to it. I'm going to fill in my ears on this third elephant. And then finally, I'll let this elephant in the front be the mama elephant. We got a dad, a mom, and two little babies. Mama elephant is in the front because we all know that women are the leaders. And the women lead us, and they protect us, and we protect each other. So we have mommy elephant in the front, two baby elephants in the middle, and papa elephant right in the back. So now I have these elephants filled in. Make sure you have no spaces or gaps within those elephants. You know, you can let those elephants dry for a bit and come back and fill them in with a second layer as well. And that will make them even more solid. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to fill in this horizon line at the base of the elephant's feet. So I'm filling in the horizon line with black paint still, and I'm still using that same paintbrush. And I'm going all the way across. And then meeting at the other end. And since these elephants are outside in the wilderness, we want to make sure that we show them in their natural environment, and we can help do that by making grass. So maybe here and there, you can add a couple of blades of grass, some silhouette blades of grass here and there, just to show that these elephants are just going for a walk outside. And again, these are other small details that will just add to our overall painting. So we got our elephants walking along the water. Now, we got a couple of small details we want to make sure we highlight in elephants. We all know that elephants have tails, and that's how these tails, and these elephants, I should say, are connected to one another. They're holding each other's tails with one another's trunk. So we got to make sure we add those tails that they're holding with their trunk. And speaking of trunk, there are usually tusks right next to the trunk. So we're going to make sure we make our elephant tusks. I hope I'm saying that right. I think that's the proper term. Tusk on an elephant. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. So we're making our elephant tusks, even on the babies, and we got our tails. This background is still a little wet, so I'm going to hold off on that for now. And when these elephants dry up, I want to give them another layer of black paint. So what we'll do is we are going to pause at this point in the painting and let this dry a bit. And when this dries up, we can go ahead and add more paint and finish it off and add those fine bells and whistles that are going to make this painting look even better. So we'll pause here and I will see you for part 2 of the video.